Recently, I got to sit down one-on-one with Paige Brunton and pepper her with a lot of my burning questions, the kinds of things that I wanted to know back when I was in the earlier stages of my business. I actually took both of her courses back in, 2018 or so, when I was first getting started and getting closer to going full-time in my business, and I just felt like I was hitting a wall and I didn't know how to get clients or find clients and all of the things. So that's a really familiar place for me because it wasn't that long ago, but I learned so much of what I currently do with my custom clients from her and her courses. And that came full circle. In her Facebook group, apparently her team noticed that I was constantly in there helping students with answering questions just from things that I happen to already know the answer to. And so they actually asked me in early 2022 to be a co-coach with Paige on the monthly student calls. And I've been doing them every month since. I absolutely love these calls. They are so much fun. Paige is such a lovely human. And she is doing a free bootcamp coming up. So in light of that, I wanted to sit down and pick her brain about the content marketing strategy that she's always used to find clients, which is blogging. I wanted to know, how long did it take her to write a blog post? How long did it take her to write the email blast that went out? How long did it take her to do all of the things? And did she notice a split in her audience when she started teaching DIY related content? So I'm really excited about sharing this interview with you. I hope that you find it really helpful. And without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Paige. So glad to have you here with us, Paige. I am super excited to ask you lots of questions. As always, I have tons of questions. So I'm just going to start if you're okay with that.
Good. Yes. Perfect.
You're the queen of content marketing. So I want to pick your brain about the way that you content marketed when you were still working with clients.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were still actively solely working with clients, were you posting twice weekly back then?
Yep.
Wow. Tell me briefly, because I've got a lot of other questions. What did that look like? How did you make time for that?
Okay, so what I did in terms of the services I was offering to clients, it was I had a really repeatable process. Like I did every project in a 2-week period. So it made it like very easy to manage and book and just focus on one person at a time. So that was like massive. Just the one person at a time thing made it so much easier for me to do other things in the business. And I did the websites over a 2-week period. To be honest, I could have done them in a week, but the 2-week thing gave me the capacity to be doing other things in the business while I was still like serving a client and everything. And so, yeah, it's all about figuring out your time management and setting priorities of what you're going to work on and everything. And so my first priority was like an amazing service to the client I was serving, but then also making sure that I could get future clients. And that meant doing my marketing consistently. And so I think that because I didn't have this, I could have also done it a different way. I could have done a 1-week project and then 1 week of blogging and marketing and all the admin and whatever. But anyways, I just chose to do it in a 2-week period for every client. And then that just gave me, I just had capacity and I made sure it was a priority in terms of my to-do list for the day. It's definitely a priority to make sure that those blog posts got out. And also writing in advance of when they need to be released was also huge for making sure it could actually happen.
Yeah, waiting till the last minute has never been a good idea.
No, it doesn't help. I could also say that doing it just as blog posts as opposed to also audio, also video, also I think really helped. It takes more, like you have to not just produce the content and potentially get like pretty if you're on video and everything, but then you also need to like edit the audio or the video or whatever. And so that takes more time. And so I do have to say that like just writing a blog was very manageable as a one person while serving clients. If I was trying to get into video, well, it could have been tough.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I think I was much faster at just writing by itself.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
Do that in your PJs on the couch on a Friday night if you want to. Versus, okay, so what kind of post did you publish to attract new clients?
The thing which I was thinking was like, okay, let me start with let's say like a common misconception, and then we'll get into what I wrote. Common misconception is if you teach people how to do the thing, then they're just going to do it themselves and not hire you, which that thought process makes logical sense and everything. But the key is that you only need a small percentage of people to hire you when you're a one-to-one service provider. And so I would write blog posts on like how to blah 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 on Squarespace, and I was strategic in what I was choosing to write about. So I would write about 10 example Squarespace photographer websites or websites for photographers or whatever. And so I was really thinking about what are they searching before they or towards the beginning of this whole website journey, or Squarespace versus whatever, or back when Squarespace had all these different templates with different features. I had this comparison chart, and that was one, massively useful, and two, just got a ton of traffic. And so those things, thinking about, okay, I'm gonna write helpful posts is if they want to DIY it, but then I fully know that a percentage of those people are going to get into it and just be like, never mind, and then decide to hire me instead and be like, I keep ending up on this girl's blog, may as well just hire her. Yeah, so I was creating a lot of, I would just say tutorials, but also just like information to help someone make a decision on if they wanted to use Squarespace. And so that was mostly what I was producing at the time.
Did you notice a difference between different types of DIY content that would attract better quality leads versus just people that thought they wanted to hire you but then realized they couldn't afford to?
That's a good question. I can't say, actually. I don't know off the top of my head. I didn't ask them before they started working with me. I knew that they came through the blog, but I didn't know specifically which post. I'm not sure. I would say there are some things that you could realistically theorize that would lead to better or worse clients. So anything, if you're talking about doing something on a super tight budget, or I don't know, say if you're talking about, I don't know, anything indicating that this is a stretch financially or whatever, just to even get a website up, that's probably not going to attract people that are going to want to pay one-to-one service prices. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be focusing on blog posts. If you want to sell templates or something lower cost, then those would make more sense. Like the 5 cheapest website builders or something, for example, and Squarespace is one of them potentially. But if you want one-to-one service clients, I probably wouldn't create content like that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good. How long did it take you to write a blog post on average?
A few hours. I do have to say that some of them were just really easy because I was just curious. I would go on to different websites and I'd be like, damn, that looks amazing. How did they do that? And so I was just like determined to figure it out. When I figured that thing out, then I would just write the post on it. Or anything that was like my experience was also super easy to write. Things that were more complicated would be, that comparison chart thing took me a long time to go through. I had to go through the templates and be like, okay, can I do that on this template? So like things like that took a much longer amount of time. But I would say, let's say 2, 3, 4 hours or something would probably be your average. And I'm admittedly not the most detail-oriented person in the world, or I just don't like rereading my own stuff. So I'll be honest, like those blog posts went out, there was no like second review or checking the like grammar or anything, and I was like, it's good enough, and just published it.
I love that though, because it's highlighting the fact that it can work without it being perfect.
Exactly.
Were you doing newsletters or email marketing early when you first got started with blogs?
Yeah, I would say if not right away, almost right away. Pretty much. I, from the beginning, had learned that it's one best practice to build your email list. And from the time I had, I don't know how many subscribers, but a very small number, let's say, 30 people or something, I was sending emails. And in terms of those emails, I've done it the same way for my entire business. And it's just send what you put in a blog post in an email, and I never wrote custom emails or anything because I just couldn't bring myself to actually do that. Nothing seemed good enough. And so I was like, I just sent the blog post, and that definitely made it, again, easy enough that I could realistically manage it as a one-person business.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to write the email then? 5-ish minutes?
5 minutes, yeah. Copy and paste the first 3 paragraphs, stick it in an email, hit send.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
Maybe add the photo. I think that was as far as, that was pretty much it.
Did you ever use the ConvertKit, the RSS feature for that? Or did you do it manually for a while?
I think I did it manually because I wanted to add maybe calls to action or also like bits of information. So yeah, I think I did always do it manually instead of actually using that.
Good. So it doesn't take as long as probably people think it might.
No. It can take as long, it could be as complicated or as easy as you want it to be. And I chose the easiest method.
Yeah, and I probably chose the harder, longer method. Do you think that DIY focused content works well for either growing an audience for DIY product or done for you services? You touched on that earlier, but I've seen a lot of questions myself from my own students about this, where they're like, I don't understand. All web designers are doing DIY content. How is that working?
So, yeah, I mean, what else are you if you want people who are attracted to Squarespace, I wouldn't even say, but I never said for DIYers or anything in any of these blog post titles or anything, but it was like how to yada or 10 best. Again, you can think of things that are not just a how-to tutorial, but are more helping someone be informed to make a decision. Or I think I one time did a price comparison because I'd started on Etsy. I did a price comparison between Etsy fees and Squarespace fees or something. And so that's something which even if someone's still going to hire someone else to do it, they still want to know that information beforehand, for example. So you could think, but granted, the question is basically like, does that actually work to get clients? And the odd answer is yes. And again, I think the reason is because people start, they get into it, and then they just, if it's a business owner who has some amount of success and money, they're going to quickly realize, probably not going to do the best job in the world at this. I could probably put together something. Is it going to be good? Is it going to work for my business? Maybe not. And how much time is this going to take me to learn? I was literally talking to a friend, he's a dentist. He showed me his new website. He was all proud of it. And I was like, oh, great. I was like, how much did it cost you? And I think he said something like 8,000 or 10,000 euros or something. And I was like, this is a pretty basic website for 10 grand. And I was like, had you considered doing it yourself or hiring your, I don't know, front desk girl or something to do it? And he's like, I do root canals. That's what I know. I don't know anything about websites. I'm just going to pay someone to do it and get it done in a month. And I have no interest to spend the time learning how to do that. And I'm like, true, valid, very good point. And so even though we think it's easy because we can do it and everything, you forget that I've personally have spent how many years now, over 10 years now, teaching myself how to do this. And so what takes 5 seconds for me is something that is an absolute mind-boggling situation to someone else. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it just throws people because we're literally telling them how to do our job, but only to a point.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing. You're only getting the basics and everything, and you're also missing so many pieces. If you learn how to drop a block here and drop a block there, sure, that's fine. But do you know how to set up this website and figure out the content strategy and the page, like how they lead into each other and all these things, or how to even design it and lay it out so that people are more likely to take the action that you want to take? Yeah, you can drag a block, drop a block, whatever, but you probably don't know that if you're DIYing it.
Right. Did you find that it started to split your audience between people that wanted to learn from you specifically to do what you do, or just to hire you or whatever?
I don't know if I would say, so that was interesting over time so I created a course, Score Secrets, which my goal with the course at the time, I had no intention to teach web designers how to be web designers. I was just like, okay, cool. I booked myself out and I was like, okay, do I scale with an agency? Do I hire other designers and do more one-to-one services? Do I do a template shop, or do I create a course and teach people how to do it themselves? And I was like, cool, I'll just teach people. Instead of me doing the custom project for the client, I'll just teach a business owner, here's everything you need to know and learn and do and whatever. And created that course and had intended it again for like your average restaurant or yoga studio or whatever to DIY their own website. And what ended up happening was that all the students started asking me questions about like how I run the actual business. And I was like, oh, okay, I made a mistake here. And I realized that like I had my ideal client avatar wrong, who I expected to buy this course. And it turns out it wasn't people who, if someone's going to spend 12 hours learning how to use a web design platform like backwards, forwards, and really make incredible websites, they're probably not your average small business owner. They're probably someone who actually considers doing this as a job. Right. So that's how I ended up accidentally serving website designers.
But it probably took a while to get to that point where your audience began to split off, right?
I think that's the other thing, is that I think every person who runs a web designer business probably has a fair number of other website designers in their audience, because when anyone gets into any industry, they start creeping their competition and they start looking at everyone else and following those people. And so I think that from the beginning of me writing those blog posts, I was probably attracting web designers without even realizing that I was doing so.
Yeah. Did you tend to put call to actions in the post that was like, if this is confusing for you, reach out and maybe we can work together? Or did you just let them figure it out?
I did have calls to action in the bottom of the blog post being like, hey, well, don't want to actually do your website yourself? Or I don't know, or here's some of my past work, like we can work together. Here's my services page or whatever. So I definitely was like leading people to that in most blog posts.
Smart. When did you quit marketing on social media?
Okay, I think the official breakup post was like 2 years ago, but I basically stopped posting like a year or more before that. So a good 2 to 3+ years now, which I know is like mind-boggling to most people. But yeah, I really believe that if you don't enjoy something in your business and you don't have a boss to force you to do the thing, it is near on impossible to get yourself to do it. My husband's always, you are basically incapable of doing things you don't want to do. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And so I really was not loving social media. I wasn't loving showing up every day and posting things. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I didn't love the comparison of it. I didn't love you get sucked into it. It takes so much time. Then you're just like, what the hell was I doing for the past 40 minutes? It's just not. I think everyone listening to this, you get it. I don't need to explain to you why it's not fun. And yeah, but that was the big question, is can you run a business successfully without it? I think I'd heard of one person, like Shanna Skidmore, who had done it. But yeah, it is definitely possible to run a business without social media if you have another marketing strategy. If 100% of your clients are coming from Instagram right now, or LinkedIn, or whatever, or TikTok, don't quit. Yes, you need to build up another marketing strategy first. Don't shoot yourself in the foot here. But do know that, okay, if your long-term goal is, I don't want to be on this platform, then start building something which is going to allow you to get off of it.
Yeah.
And track where your inquiries inquiries are coming from, so you know when it's 100% through the blog, sweet, audio's Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. You really need to make that decision based on data and not on a feeling, because you could make the wrong decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Okay. I have to agree. I don't know if I actually did a breakup post, but I did eventually quit around 2022, I think.
Yeah, okay, same time. Look at us.
All that time blogging, since you weren't finding joy in the social media bit, focusing on the blogging stuff, did you ever purposefully go all in on the SEO for all of the posts, like keyword research and specific titles for SEO and descript? Like, how deep did you go, really?
Not that deep.
Same.
Yeah, not that deep. There was once or twice where I bought Ahrefs or something for a month or two and then did some research on what's doing well for other people and what should I be writing on. But like all the things that I found in those like tools, I was like, yeah, mostly. I mean, I don't know how accurate it is, but it'll show you like traffic that other people are getting to like certain posts or whatever. And so that could be helpful. If you're like, okay, cool, I want to try to compete with that post to make a better one. But typically it was like Squarespace SEO, Squarespace this, Squarespace that. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm doing this anyways. So I can say that coming back to, I find it difficult to do things which I don't enjoy, and going back and trying to plug my keywords into certain places or whatever. Like of course I know the main things that you need to do and probably do it naturally, but I'm not like going back and like quadruple checking, is this keyword in this subheading, or how do I change the subheading to get it in there or whatever. So yeah, I truly found, this is a funny story, I was at a conference in Berlin and got recognized there, which is also really funny because I was like, that had never happened to me before, that someone, but I guess I was at an SEO conference, so I was like, yeah, okay, if I'm gonna get recognized, here's the place. But anyways, they had asked for an example of someone who's trying to rank for a certain keyword, and so I was like, oh yeah, myself, and I gave myself as an example. I was saying like Squarespace website designer, and I was literally after Squarespace, and I think it was like Fiverr or something, I was the first like actual result of an actual Squarespace website designer. And then they started going through my homepage and they're like, you literally don't have the word Squarespace website designer a single time on this homepage. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And it's just because I just wrote the copy and how, I don't know, didn't think too much about keyword stuffing things into the right places. And then they were like, how are you doing that? How are you beating out like all these like hundreds of other web designers? And I was like, oh, I just write a lot of blog posts. That's pretty much it. And I wrote the blog posts as well that I enjoyed writing, and that I don't know, idea would come into my head. I'd be like, oh, I need to figure out how to do this. Figured it out, wrote a blog post about it, and didn't concern myself too much with the whole like, get your keywords, do your research, whatever.
Yeah, I found that to be the same for me. In fact, when SEO Space came out last year and I scanned my site for the first time, especially when they had the whole site audit added, I was like, wow, it really isn't that good. Which again goes to the point that it doesn't have to be perfect for it to actually work if you're producing good, valuable content.
You mean it wasn't that good in terms of you didn't have your keywords in the right places?
Yeah, my score was shit.
Oh,
it was like 40.
But you're still doing well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I think let's summarize. I think if we could come to a conclusion, it's that good content trumps putting a keyword in a heading on your homepage. That's, if you had to ask me which is more important, good content's more important.
Yeah. Which thing is most important when you're first getting started? For sure, those things are probably good things to do if you find joy in doing those things.
Definitely.
I don't. It seems like Paige doesn't either. Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes services get a bad rap. What's easiest to start and grow a business? Do you think it's service or product?
Totally. Okay, so I have plenty of experience with both. And I will definitely say that to get started, I'm literally creating a video right now. It's going to come out sometime in the next few weeks about making 6 figures as a website template shop. In said video, if you want a little preview, basically I'm like, there's 2 things that you need to be successful if you want to run a website template shop. First is really great, incredible designs. People don't buy ugly templates. You can have all the best bonuses and all the best whatever, SEO keywords in the right place and everything, and rank at the top. But if people don't like your design, they're not buying your template. So one is that. Second thing is they need to be able to find you. You need to build an audience to sell hundreds of templates. Like to get, for example, there's like a 1 to 2% conversion rate on like people seeing your offer to people converting. So that means you need, if you want to make like good income off of a template shop, which templates are lower priced and everything, you need tens of thousands of visitors to your website per month in order to get your like template sales that's going to be your like full-time income, let's say. It takes time to build up to tens of thousands of visitors a month on your website. And so if people don't find your template, if there's no way that they're getting to you, you don't have an audience, you haven't built traffic or anything, then it's going to be a tough road. And the other thing is that you're going to produce such better templates when you've actually worked and talked to humans about what they want in their website and everything. Yeah. So to start, it is a lot easier to get, let's say you do 20 or 30 client projects in a year. It's a lot easier to get 20 or 30 like custom projects at a few grand each versus hundreds of template sales that it would take you to make the same amount of money. Because you need one, incredible designs, which takes practice, and two, you need an audience and people to actually find your templates. I would say that starting with one-to-one services is the better beginner step. If you, however, I have years and years where I want to, a year, let's say, for example, is I just want to go ham on like only creating content or doing marketing or building an audience or whatever for a year straight before I make a single dollar, then cool. And you just want to practice. You just want to practice doing the designs and everything like by yourself. But why don't you just get paid to practice with doing custom clients as opposed to just like making a website that no one ever uses? So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one.
I agree. I think that's what I found too. And I've heard that from other people as well. Like the easiest business to start, even if that's not your end game, is a service-based business.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. And that's web designer or basically any other industry. Like it's just so much easier. I know that people are always like so quick to jump to, I want the passive income. I want the laying on a beach sipping margaritas. And I'm like, yes, but you do also need to build the skill and build the audience and everything to make that possible. And so that is a longer game.
Yeah. And you can build the audience while you're doing the services
and
make money in the interim.
Exactly. And make money off of your practice.
Exactly. So the last few questions I have are centered around the survey that you did a few years ago. Seems like it was close to 800 people that took it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So most did not previously have a background. I just went through this like last night, so relatively fresh in my mind. They didn't have a background in education or in design, most of the surveyors, which is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
But cool. And the biggest age group was 25 to 34, which again was a little surprising because I felt like it was going to be more like second career kind of people, like maybe in the second tier, or what is that? I guess 25 to 34 is the second tier, but the third or whatever the next stage was. 35
to 40 something or whatever,
Yeah, I think that's what I expected. So why do you think that career path is so attractive when it's not considered stable?
Interesting. That's good. Okay, I have a few theories. Okay, so yeah, the survey that Caitlin's talking about is our State of the Web Designer report, basically, that we did. We surveyed, I think it was 770 website designers to ask them all of the questions. I just wanted to know all the things, and I was like, cool, we're going to do a mass survey here. So we asked them things like, what did you do before you became a website designer? How much are you charging? How much education have you invested in? Like all those different things. It's very interesting. We'll link it below if you want to peruse that further. But anyways, so why do I think that is the case? Okay, so from my own story, I can just say that I think that because I was young and just messing around with something on the internet, I just came across that. And I think as people maybe get older, they don't do as much. It's like you give a kid a cell phone, learns how to use a cell phone in 5 seconds. You give an old person a cell phone, they still can't do anything on it. They're just more afraid of clicking the wrong thing or the whole thing melts down, which is obviously not going to happen. And so like I guess a lot of people, and when I speak to students, actually that's pretty common, is at some job or in their personal life as a hobby, they like want to start a blog. So they start Googling how to start a blog, and then they figure out these website platforms and they start building it. And then they're like, ooh, that was fun. And that's what I did, was I started a blog and learned how to taught myself how to build websites in the process. Then I speak to other people, and there's another Caitlin who's a student, and she had been laid off from her job. And then an uncle was like, oh, you're young. Can you like build me a website? And she's like, yeah, sure, I can figure it out. Whereas like your average 65-year-old apparently doesn't think that same way. And so I can say, however, that I do have plenty of students who are older and who do have this as like a second career or as a little retirement side hustle or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it is both, but those would probably be my theories on why.
I agree. I think it's like, at least for myself, it was at my 9 to 5, getting paid double-digit numbers per hour with no benefits. It was like, I'm in my 20s. Am I really going to do this for the next 40 years?
Exactly. That brings me to the other thing, is a shocking number of my students are new moms. And I was like, why do I keep attracting new moms? I don't have children, so I don't know how they're like, I don't know. Because normally people like buy from someone they relate to and everything. And so I was like, I'm not very relatable to like new moms. But then I realized that kind of didn't matter, is that a lot of women, they have a child, which again, they're probably in that like 20 to to 30 age bracket or whatever. And then they realize they're like, oh, this job, this commuting, this whatever, this thing which I didn't even like that much before, I definitely don't want to do it now. And what can I do from home that's also well paid? I don't want to just be a virtual assistant making $20 an hour or something. I want to do something that's paid and I can do the baby naps or whatever. And so web design is it. A lot of people came to that same conclusion. That's why they ended up taking one of my courses.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that was ultimately what made me take your courses too. It was just like, I've got to develop this other skill because I can't keep, what is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Yeah. So I guess that life change also with women typically happens at that age. So therefore also why.
Yeah. It's a theory, but it's a good one. Cool. Okay. So the 5 biggest struggles people listed were marketing and finding clients, pricing services in this order too. Pricing services, confident and mindset issues, balancing life and business, and time management. How you have a course, Square Secrets Business. How does that help with those? Because not all of these people that took the survey were actually your students. So how does Square Secrets Business help with those issues?
It literally helped. Yeah. So before you asked that question, I was like, yeah, Square Secrets Business helps with all those. So basically, if you're unfamiliar, Square Secrets Business is a course which teaches you how to set up and run a web design business. It's basically like me being like, here's how I run my business. Here's all of the things, everything in depth. Like, here's how I onboard, here's how I offboard, here's how I deal with contracts, and here's how I deal with figuring out which I price and all those things and raising it over time. And the other thing which I did was I brought in other guest experts because I was like, shouldn't really talk about marketing strategies, which I have not done successfully myself. Like, you should not learn Instagram from me. But I was like, but people are going to want to market on Instagram. I know that. And so I brought in other website designers with like real world, they built a business experience, they'd figure out the whole marketing thing, and so they all had different ways they'd marketed their business. And they, in the course, went through and shared with me, this is how I market, this is how I find clients, this is what I learned over time about this, how I changed it, here's how to, if you want to do, I don't know, podcast interviews as your marketing strategy, or if you want to do Instagram as your marketing strategy, here's the game plan of what you should do, basically. Yeah, Square Secrets Business is massive for figuring out how to find clients. We spent literally 4 hours talking about just that, so it's pretty in-depth on the marketing front. And then I think that also we have another course, Square Secrets, which is the first one which I created, which is like a Squarespace tech course and also like best practices for website design. And so I think that's huge in terms of like, the confidence. Like, figuring out your pricing is mostly a mindset game. And when you feel more confident in the stuff that you're producing, then you're going to feel better about charging way more money for your projects. So yeah, that's basically what all the courses solve.
Yeah, I have to say those guest videos were absolutely fascinating. Even though a lot of those strategies are not necessarily ones that I would want to do myself, I watched the videos anyway because I just wanted to hear like how it worked for them, and maybe there's something I don't know about that strategy that would work for me. So yeah, helps with making an informed decision for sure. The last question I have or a couple questions is related to what were your biggest surprises from the survey? I know it's probably been a while since you've looked, but do you remember like one big takeaway where you were like, whoa?
Yeah, I think a few things. One was how the vast majority of people had not done anything related. Like, the industries that they came from before is retail, or there were so many things in there. It was just like had literally nothing to do with anything tech or business or website related. So that was because I figured maybe a good number of people would have went and studied graphic design in college, and then like they worked for a graphic design agency or whatever, and then decided to go out on their own. But that was actually a very small percentage of people. And then the other thing, which was interesting and definitely supported my cause, but I didn't know before we did it. We asked people like, how much had you invested into your own education? And we also asked like, how much are you charging per project right now? And like, how booked are you and all those things? And there was a definite significant correlation between like you had spent money to educate yourself on running this business or website design and improving your skills and charging more. And so that was nice to see.
Yeah. So basically it just shows that if you put your money where your mouth is, then you feel comfortable asking the same thing from somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. And you really have the skills to back it up in the process and everything that's going to like justify, and people are going to be happy to pay that rate because they're getting a genuinely quality product from you at the end.
Yeah. Cool. With all of that in mind, is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
It's a great segue. There is. Coming up, the wonderful Caitlin is joining me for this. I'm so excited. So on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of October, we are hosting my semi-annual boot camp. So if you are, I say, web designer curious, if you are like, that could be a fun job or an interesting thing to do, we host a free boot camp. It's 3 days of incredible trainings. Caitlin will also be there for one of the days. And yeah, I basically go through with you all the basic beginner things that you need to know about running a successful web design business. So again, if you're like, want to want to dip my toe in, not quite sure if I'm ready for a full course yet, or not quite sure even if I'm like committed to this idea, but I'm interested to see if this would be possible, then Bootcamp is a fantastic place to start. We will put the link in the description below. It's happening live. If you're watching this video later, we do host them about-ish every 6 months. But yeah, if you're watching this before the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of October, go to the link below and get registered because it's a really fabulous event.
Yeah, even if you're Paige curious and you want to know like what her teaching style is, those 3 days are live sessions and then Q&A after that. You get to see a lot of past students in there that come in and support the new free group members, but also there's usually a Q&A with past successful students.
Yeah, we have a panel, which is always so interesting. And yeah, I basically bring in like past students who, if you're thinking like, okay, if you've ever thought, I want to have someone who is very successful at this job sit down and answer all my questions, that's pretty much what like the panel is. And we bring in a bunch of past students who run fabulous businesses and they answer your questions. And then Caitlin and I also have a Q&A session, just the two of us as well. Caitlin is our co-coach inside of our community. And so once a month, Caitlin and I do Q&A calls with students. And so we figured we'd also put that in Bootcamp to give you a taste of what the monthly powwow is like. Yeah.
And I have to say too, because I go to all of these, even though I know most of it by now, the amount of time you spend in there during this live week is phenomenal, insane, crazy pants, but the value is there. So if you have a question while you're in there, like that's basically the only opportunity to get Paige's eyes on your question or her team or whoever. Yeah.
Yep, totally. Yeah, so you can ask questions in the sessions, you can ask in the Facebook group. It's a group that we have open for a week or so. So it's a really good place to get all your questions answered.
All right. So in the interim, let's say, where do you think would be most beneficial for them to follow along? Is it email? Is it website? Is it YouTube?
I will give you two things in one. I will say that email is the best place to keep up with what is happening and get the information on these events in future as well. But I will also give you something else, which is if you are struggling to figure out which client finding method which marketing method is going to fit you, I have a quiz, which will then get you on the email list. So go to paigebrunton.com/quiz. It's the which client finding method matches your personality type quiz. And so that is one, genuinely very interesting and beneficial for you to know. And that will also help you if you come to Bootcamp to already know which method works for you, because we're going to talk about the different methods and all those things. But anyway, so yeah, I would say that is somewhere to head after this. Go to the quiz, get your result, and then you'll be on the email list.
Good. Okay. I'll make sure to link that below too. All right. This has been a pleasure, Paige. I'm so thrilled that I had you on. I'm really excited about the Bootcamp. I hope everybody is too.
Good.
I guess that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Always fun to chat.